Hey guys, Justin Brock here. Today I have a special treat in the office with us. We have Brandon Clay. Now, many of you have probably seen Brandon speak at many events that we've been to. He's spoken at Medicare Con before, and we're super pumped that he's going to be back at Medicare Con this year. He's taken on a new role as the CEO of Enroll Here, and he's had a lot of experience in the industry. As a matter of fact, it's hard for me to think of someone that's around today that has as much experience as he does. So Brandon, thank you for being here.
No, thank you, Justin. It's awesome to come back and see you and see BBI, which has been amazing to see the growth and everything you guys have accomplished. I was talking to Steven out front, reminiscing about what might have been one of the first videos I ever did with you, actually, too. And I think I might have had hair. So now we're sort of juxtaposed now, and life is taking me down a little bit different road, as you can see. But
Yeah.
glad to be here.
No, and I can't imagine Brandon Clay with hair, so that's scary anyway. Let's just start. So obviously, I want to talk about Brandon Clay. For people that don't know a little bit about your story, tell me about when you came into this industry, because we've been having a lot of conversations about the evolution of the industry, and I have about 11 years of experience, and then past that, it's all what I've heard. But you lived through this. If you're in the Medicare world, like, you've lived through a lot of that transformation and been part of it at a high enough level to have some pretty good insights. So.
Right. No, so I was really fortunate. It's a long story, as with everybody. But in 1996, I actually became an agent for UnitedHealthcare. So those were some of their first plans that were ever available. Actually, the term at the time was called Medicare Risk. Mm-hmm. Now, imagine knocking on someone's door, and the first thing you have to tell them is, "I'm Brandon Clay. I'm here today to talk to you about Medicare Risk." It was not a good look. And at that time, obviously, it was all new. People didn't know what it was. And of course, Medicare, even just the naming convention has evolved. It then became Medicare Plus Choice. And now, as we know it today, Medicare Advantage. But in 1996, started as an agent. It was one of those pivotal moments, like you and I talked about, where I saw something. I'd been doing Medicare claims with a company that had gotten purchased by UnitedHealthcare 2 years, but for those 2 years, I processed over 2 million General Motors claims as a TPA. But I got to see Medicare at its deepest level, which was how people were paying for the services they were getting rendered. And then a posting came up and it said Medicare agent. And I thought, well, I know Medicare. I don't know what the agent part is. I'd been licensed before, kind of ironically, to one of our conversations with Primerica, and I'd used it limitedly. But that license then got me through the door of that opportunity, and things just sort of at that moment, the eureka moment, the light bulb went off. And since then, I've been able to ride sort of the waves of change and growth and evolution in the industry.
Yeah, and there have been many of those pivotal points. I feel like we've been in one of those for a little bit recently, and we're seeing it through. And we learned a lot about the resilience of the industry as a whole. And then I think we were talking earlier about people that come today with the default expectation. I hate to say standing on the shoulders of the people that come before you and calling yourself tall necessarily, but sometimes I see people do that. But the default expectation gives them this look at it like, this industry is really messed up. Somebody needs to come in here and change things. And it's like, buddy, we've all been changing things for people long before me. I feel like I've been changing things, and we've been making this progress towards the better. But we do need more people to keep coming in and moving the needle, because there's still a lot to be desired, and but there's a lot of people involved. And like we said earlier, everyone is complicit in the industry not being as efficient as it should be, from the consumer to the carrier and everybody in between, including agents and brokers and builders. It's like that. But you've seen some of that. So I want to go back just as, because I think the period that's the most, fascinating to me, and probably only other 37 more people in the world, because I'm a nerd like this, is, when the real Medicare Advantage push started, and maybe it was before, I'm assuming it was starting to be called Medicare Advantage, but when the pre-heavy compliance the era that made compliance more of a thing, the way I understand it, and I love to talk to people that were there, is there were a lot of agents that were going out and saying, hey, you can get off your Medicare supplement, and you can get this for free now, and then that started you can't say free and we need a scope of appointment and all that. I'm assuming you were involved in distribution during that period.
No, absolutely. So I was actually with one of the first chronic illness special needs plans on the carrier side, because I spent of my 28-ish years, half of that's been carrier. The last 14-ish years have been, well, not quite 14, about 10 years have been all distribution since 2016. And that was MIPA, not trying to be too fancy here, but Medicare Improvement Patient Provider Act, which took away unsolicited contact, so no more cold calling. Mm-hmm. It brought in standardized commission, at that time 200, 400, much like what we see today. But it also opened the door to a few other things that have given agents an opportunity for growth. So it's like you mentioned, this is an imperfect system, but we've got the majority good if you plug in correct, get into the right opportunity, the right system, and the things we talked about yesterday. But in that sort of recalibration, it became more challenging for someone that just wanted to come and get the gold out of the hills. You actually had to become what I used to say then, a professional, or at least be tied into where you could safeguard against some of the pitfalls, i.e. compliance and some of the things that people had gotten used to doing. And even maybe more explicitly, I started out, even not to make a shameless plug to start out with, but in the book, it was for final expense agents. My porch chopping, door knocking warriors, which at that time, you're porch chopping and you're door knocking, you're in trouble. Mm-hmm. But there was a way to help those agents galvanize the energy they were using for final expense and convert it into, but then additionally supporting people with Medicare decisions. And then, yes, as we've talked about on the ancillary side, hospital indemnity. So when I look at the different evolutions and iterations of the business, my mom used to say to me all the time, nobody is going to pay you to clean a clean kitchen. Our jobs, and you are masterful at it, and I'm saying that in all sincerity, at systematizing chaos. So with every evolution, with every capitulation, chaos. All right? The ones that were just here pretending, run off. They're gone. Mm-hmm. The ones that don't know what to do struggle, and then they probably end up by attrition weeding themselves out. But then in sort of that, strong survive mentality, no Darwinism implied there, but certainly there's a survival of the fittest methodology. Agents need something to plug into that creates a system that takes the chaos, reveals the opportunity in the chaos. Mm-hmm. And then, as we talked about, from about that period from MIPA to 2017, then 17 into COVID past it, for people that systematize through technology, through approaches that would help through lead generation, pulling out of some of that agrarian, direct mail. I'm on a run here. But if you systematize, the chaos actually brings another opportunity. So when I hear people say, well, what's going to happen with Medicare? It's going to change. I said, and you need to be ready for it. And, now 27-ish years in, it's old school rules, new school tools. There's a foundational component, which I was talking to one of your team members, Will, the other day, and he remembered something I said at your second Medicare Con in Birmingham. As you serve, you deserve. But you're going to have to change the way you serve, because if you just keep trying to do it the way you've always done it, the evolution's going to leave you behind.
Yeah. I love nobody's going to pay you to clean a clean kitchen. Mm-mm. So we can thank your mom for that one. I'll have to use that one.
She made me clean the clean kitchen. And I better preface by saying I fancy myself a storyteller, strategist, and a coach. So for me, everything's sort of woven in the real world of the world that we lived in, which was great. Those hours we spent.
Well, it's a perfect thing. I use analogies a lot, and I try to make it very, very simple analogies, because if I can take a very complex concept that people get worked over or idealistic about, and I say, well, let's just break this down to the most basic functions of life, or the most basic understanding of humans, and then you use the exact same framework there, and you're like, okay, I get it. And it kind of has, to me, it has a calming effect. It takes you back from getting worked up over a concept and being like, oh, this just is the way it is. And, we were talking about that earlier with agents we talked to a lot of agents. I would say that you and I both are probably some of the people that have talked to the most agents in the industry, and at least on the Medicare side, there's some guys out there on the life side that have talked to a lot of agents, but we've talked to a lot of agents, and when I talk to agents, they tend to get worked up over a topic, like for instance, with the commission thing we were talking about with the carriers they have a problem. I'm a carrier. My problem is I have to distribute these products, but only at the rate that I can sustain and efficiently, get reimbursed at a rate that turns a profit that is within the margin that is acceptable to the government, but also to our shareholders. So it's like that's the problem. And then the agent's problem is I have to find consumers that trust me to distribute said products for those carriers. And so when a carrier says we're not paying a commission on that product, an agent's first response is they think they don't need us anymore. But there's a huge, gap that they jumped over there because one, what else are they using to distribute these products right now? Agents and brokers are the distribution. There is there is some people that are directly enrolling through Medicare.gov or maybe some other Pearls or through eHealth has a there's some consumer facing sites, but that's a very small, slim portion of the population, and even a lot of those get disenrolled because they're not very effective at picking their own plan. So the carriers already don't believe that they don't need agents and brokers, but maybe they don't want to distribute the plan. So anyway, unfortunately, I feel like when something like that happens, I'm like, man, I wish you guys would have talked to me before you made this announcement, because there was probably some ways to communicate this without the backlash that some of those carriers have gotten. But that's the way a lot of things unfold. It's like, how can we communicate? But that's the thing about the masters of distribution is they're effective communicators. There's other aspects of it. There's tech and there's processes, but pretty much everyone that I know that has built, the most valuable distribution focused organizations in our industry are very good in communicating. Maybe not everyone likes them. That's not part of communication. Different strokes for different folks, but they're master communicators. And the agents, the carriers know that, and that's why they have a selling. You'd almost think, why wouldn't you consult the chiefs of your distribution on the way that you communicate a topic like that before it just gets crapped on everyone? So, but anyway, as that's just, one of the topics we've been discussing, to bring it full circle, you're talking about, with an agent and broker solving a problem, we need tools. And so over time, as we started working with agents and brokers, we would put out content and they would have, questions about how we were doing, and we would share that. And then we realized, you could get more and more systematized. You could systematize the learning process. You could systematize portions of the marketing process. It's difficult to 100% systematize because there needs to be, it's like a train is just rolling down the tracks. But I still need someone at the helm, to make sure these unforeseen variables don't, cause chaos. So even with marketing system like GoGuru, which is what it is, it's a CRM, but it's a marketing system. You need somebody to be a strategist within it. But with Enroll Here and the evolution of Enroll Here right now, obviously a great friend of mine, Tyler Reese, has had part of that vision, and then brought along some of the people that helped him previously at IFG, Ryan Strathmeyer, Josh Benson. It seems like the goal was, let's solve the problems that we didn't have solved when we were building IFG. And when I heard that they were bringing Brandon Clay on to be the CEO, I thought, this is the dream team, man. I want to be a part of it. So I feel like we're an early adopter to thinking about how can we take everything that GoGuru doesn't do and that that there doesn't have to be the manual process, and fill those gaps with one more. And pretty soon our users, I feel like they could have GoGuru and most small to mid-sized agencies could have GoGuru and Enroll Here, and pretty soon they won't need anything else, you know.
And therein lies, I think, number one, the beauty of how this evolution is taking shape. And, as you mentioned, Tyler, I actually met him back when we were looking at, he was big into final expense, mortgage protection, annuities, and introduced him to Medicare. And then at that point, like anybody, there were several Archimedes eureka moments, light bulbs going off. And he's brilliant as a visionary, and he sees things that a lot of people just wouldn't see. Mm-hmm. And in a sense of a little bit of a backstory, he showed me with Nico a demo of Enroll Here maybe 8-ish months ago. And I remember sort of looking at it, and again, knowing that I said, okay, well, I would never bet against Tyler, that's for sure. Let me lean in and listen to what he's doing. And when I first saw it, it was like, man, if that works, this is something. And obviously through both the iterations and then that we launched in October, it's been amazing to see. And of course, your teams as an early adopter, Justin, which we had give great kudos and thanks for, because when you're doing something new, obviously there's sort of the pain of change. But you said a couple of things, and I'll kind of bring it together in that sense. And I talked about systematizing chaos, and I'm a big believer, again, storyteller, strategist. So strategist in me wants to see systems, something that's scalable, repeatable, so that, but also in this respect, democratized, where if you're a 10-seat virtual agency or you're a hybrid agency, they do have their appointments in the field and another half that they can plug in at home. And James Clear in Atomic Habits says you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So you talked about content or about narratives, and I'm going kind of deep with you here, but it all ties together to give agents simplistic approaches versus we've solved all the complexity. You've solved the complexity. I've got training modules, training videos. I've got forums you can plug into. I've got the GoGuru modeling that you can now have as your system. You don't need bad strategy anymore or an absence of a strategy. I've got you. Mm-hmm. And then additionally, I can now see how I could integrate potentially for some of your agents, the Enroll Here modeling. So these systems now come together to kind of, not, you can never mitigate, but you minimize that chaos you described before, where agents want to know, well, what's next? What's happening? What does that mean for me? How do I make it through Heidi-Fighty? How do I make it through anything that's coming in April? You take systems that have been created by forward-thinking people like you, people like Tyler, which are now, of course, I'm sort of at the helm of helping grow and scale and get the business into more environments. And then you start to see that beautiful solution work. All of a sudden, you realize, okay, we've got something that can change the way agents see their business. Yeah. And again, back to a little bit of shameless plug, I rewrote 6 Hours to Six Figures more now from the digital agent perspective. And again, old school rules, new school tools. The way we serve has to be the same. You've got to help Miss Jones, Miss Mamie navigate the options, the choices. But now you've got to be able to do that in a way that is more sustainable from a cost effectiveness, client acquisition effectiveness, CPA. Again, some agents have no idea what that means, but it matters to us that build the systems. But if I plug and play you into something that gives you the best chance of getting a CPA that allows for sustainability and longevity, now I've got something that when people realize it's there, it's like water in the desert.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I think when you say democratize, I look at it as a leveling of the playing field. The field, the small agency hybrid, and the largest call centers in the country were playing by different rules, and now they're playing by the same rules. And because of the evolution of companies like Enroll Here, but primarily Enroll Here, that's the one that we're looking at is we have a system. I mean, I was just on with Nico, who give a lot of credit to Enroll Here, one of the chief architects, if you will, brilliant guy, and they have a portion of Enroll Here coming out that's kind of direct to agent. That basically could take any individual agent in the field and turn them into being able to get the exact same call volume that somebody that worked at one of the largest e-brokers was getting before. And we can all talk about like the difference in different types of lead quality and different CPAs and, what is acceptable and what isn't, and lifetime value. But at the end of the day, we're in a model where people have to feed themselves and they have to turn a profit. And so when you look at a group there are a couple of groups out there that are using 606 accounting, which gets a little, deep on the accounting side, that are booking the entire lifetime value of a customer, the perceived lifetime value of a customer, as revenue on the balance sheet. And so they'll be like, well, we can afford a $600 CPA. Well, the average agent can't do that. And a lot of times, many of those companies have gone belly up because they realized they overestimated the LTV, even when they pursued a higher cost per acquisition. The solution now, and part of our journey with AmeriLife is I even chased high LTV, and now I chase both. Give me some of that high LTV business, give me some of that grassroots, education-based marketing. The longer funnel that comes to fruition. It takes a long time to build a brand, all those things. But to take an agent out of the blue and say, hey, you're a talented guy or girl who, man or woman, sorry, who can sell, can communicate, could do really good, could help people. And to say, okay, now go work on this for 5 or 10 years and see what happens. That's not a solution. That's just you just handed them a problem. You're not handing them a solution. This is a solution. Enroll Here is a solution. And there's many factors of Enroll Here, for the people that aren't aware, that will become aware, because, you guys are going to be a big partner at Medicare Con. You're going to be speaking at Medicare Con. But Enroll Here is becoming a big part of what we do. But for the people that don't know, we're talking about inbound lead routing, logging in and answering the phone. I plan to actually demo it live at Medicare Con myself. But we're talking about inbound phone calls on tap from people who initiated them based on compliant ads. We're talking about commissions processing at an efficiency that I don't think it's ever been done before. With a team that actually knows what they're talking about, that has run it on the distribution side and then taken that knowledge, paired with the computer programmers, and figured out a process that is efficient. Within that same system, we're talking about reporting, right? Because in our industry, reporting is one of the biggest issues. The centralized location of data. I would say I'm an AmeriLife partner, right. And I thought coming over, AmeriLife would just have data like on tap, and I think people think that the integrities the AmeriLifes have. They're so good at data, and they're better than, they get better as they rise, but it's still a big problem, right. For those organizations. And the more money that's flowing through it, the bigger the problem the disconnect of data is. So Enroll Here is now becoming part of that solution, and it will evolve over time. That's the cool thing about business is knowing that you have people that are really along for the ride, because sometimes you solve a very simple problem with a very simple piece of technology, and it's good for a little while, and then it's outdated. That's not what Tyler's about. I don't think that's what you're about. It'll be an evolving process to where, as the consumer psychology evolves as to what they respond to, as the needs from the carriers, as the carriers maybe become better with their data sharing, those processes will improve. And I'm anxious to see. I think just some of the other features that could evolve out of Enroll Here. It could get to the point where it's doing a ton, and it's kind of hand in glove to us, because Tyler's very much said we're not going to be a CRM. We want to work with other CRMs. We want to fill the void, and there's a big void.
Well, and again, so many things, Justin, but to go back a bit, when you think about Tyler and what he created, and then ultimately what was sold, it's become one of the largest distribution outlets in the country, if not the single largest. That's not part of some aggregated roll up, and and that strategy is fine for those that can do it. But it was because he understood distribution probably better than most, and certainly I have that background as well, but he was the one that initiated solving it, and the visionary, and you mentioned Nico as the architect from a development standpoint. He took every pain point in building what he built, i.e. you've got all these different connected call centers or disconnected call centers, but everybody's on a different telephony platform. And ultimately just building out that dialer, and to your point, the publisher's environment where people can plug in and get those opportunities coming to them has been life-changing for the smallest to the largest. It's all there. And then, yes, as we think about it, the ultimate goal is to have everything happen in one ecosystem, end to end. And that's a beautiful dream, because I think now we're all working in various systems that aren't ultimately connected. And it works, but it's not as efficient as it could be. And so number one, we're excited to kind of have our official coming out launching at Medicare Con. And then I think we will even have, as you do the live demo, there'll be other enhancements and announcements even then that we'd be able to show and announce.
Yeah.
So what I love, again, about you, and a little play on words here, is the old commercial about I'm not just the hair club for member president, I'm also a member. If you remember that commercial, you've proven this. And I was here for the BBI meeting this morning, and seeing the results, even in these early stages, are very encouraging. And I think that's what will get the crowd to galvanize around what we've created, is that, outside of Tyler in that respect of being an impact maverick in the industry, me being long in terms of tenure, it's the fact that this thing works.
Yeah. Yeah, it does work. We're seeing it work. I was probably too long a skeptic of the model, not of Enroll Here, but of the processes that we've plugged into. But I mean, the numbers don't lie, and we are. It's amazing that we've grown as much as we have without it, because now I feel like our growth curve has just steepened, if you will. So, well. At Medicare Con, any hints in what you think you might talk about besides Enroll Here? We know we're going to get some hints in Enroll Here for sure.
So it'll be consistent with what I usually try to do, which is the 3 E's: enlightening, empowering, and entertaining. So we know, number one, thank you for giving me the floor. It's like you may have to say at the beginning, the views of Brandon Clay may not necessarily reflect those of Justin Brock, but hopefully I won't go off the rails. But in that sense of enlightening, empowering, and entertaining, it really is to both kind of in the threefold sense of mindset, skill set, tool set, which is sort of, the mindset of agents. Now, the thing is, the great energy you had in your room, and it's the old adage, culture kills eat strategy for lunch. Mm-hmm. You built an amazing culture. And then that kind of infiltrates all of your various impact and influence zones. So your agents come, and the people that come to Medicare Con already have a high level, high vibratory mindset.
Yeah.
Some of them, though, depending on how long they've been in the business, it is about skill set. Some of the things that we talked about yesterday, and I know you've been leading the charge with some of this, is I still don't understand why there hasn't been broader adoption in the ancillary world.
Yeah.
Hospital indemnity, cancer, heart, stroke. So there'll be some of that instructional skill set stuff that I'll weave in. And then, Enroll Here kind of fits into the tool set framework. Yeah. And when we bridge across all those, and again, I'll do it in a very colloquial storytelling style, hopefully we'll get everybody and keep everybody's attention. And then they leave with what they came for the Medicare Con to begin with, which is the thing every human being wants to do, but is the single hardest thing for a human being to do, which is to change.
Yeah.
Because anybody that's coming wants to grow. And growth means I've got to evolve, and evolve means I've got to change. But we start with the mind, we start with the skill, we go into the skill, and then we bring the tools to bear.
Yeah. Perfect.
And I'm excited.
I think I will say all of my views align with Brandon Clay's right before you go. Because so far we haven't found any that they don't. I'm always impressed. Appreciate your leadership early on. Seeing things that you have done helped me. There's people out there that are just a true beacon of doing things the right way and staying committed and being positive about it. And you're one of those. So I'm not only offering the stage, but very humbled that you take the time to participate in things that we do. We're super excited to have you, and the audience is in for a real treat. So thank you very much, Brandon.
No, thank you, Justin. Looking forward to it.
All right.